In every corner of the world, there are elders whose faces carry the map of a lifetime. Eyes lined with countless sunrises, hands shaped by both labor and love, hearts tempered by seasons of joy and storms of sorrow. When you sit beside them and listen, a different kind of education begins. These elders do not speak in hurried fragments or the shallow chatter of the day. They speak in stories. They speak in truths that have survived the test of time. This journey is a quiet walk through those stories, a meditation on 50 keys to happiness, each one a candle passed from one generation to the next. They begin with gratitude. The wisest elders say that gratitude is the soil in which every other joy grows. Happiness is not something you chase down the street. It's something you notice when you pause. They remember mornings when the smell of bread drifted through a small kitchen, evenings when a single star lit the sky. They tell of difficult years, wars, losses, disappointments, and how gratitude was still possible. One woman, 98 and still walking to the market each day, says she thanks the sun for rising before she even opens her eyes. She does not wait for a grand event to feel joy. She begins with breath itself. The second lesson follows closely: simplicity. They describe rooms with few possessions but endless warmth, gardens planted with care instead of extravagance. An elder from a mountain village tells how he once sought wealth and collected trinkets. Only when he gave them away did he feel rich. He laughs as he remembers that people thought he had lost everything, but he insists that was the day he gained himself. "The less I carried," he says, "the more the world opened. Third comes patience." Time has taught these elders that rushing rarely brings peace. They speak of waiting through long winters, of tending seeds that take years to bear fruit, of friendships mended only after silence and distance. A grandfather remembers building a wooden boat plank by plank over 3 summers. "Each nail taught me patience," he says. "Hurry would have sunk us." Patience, they explain, is not only about waiting for events, but about allowing people, including ourselves, to grow at their own pace. Forgiveness is the 4th key, and it arrives with stories of old wounds. They talk of neighbors who quarreled for decades, siblings who drifted apart, lovers who parted in anger. Yet the elders have learned that carrying resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other will suffer. One woman recalls writing a letter of forgiveness to a friend who never replied. "It wasn't for her," she says softly. "It was for my own heart." Her eyes shine with the freedom that only forgiveness brings. Lesson 5 is curiosity. Age, they insist, does not close the door on wonder. A 92-year-old man speaks of learning to play the violin at 80. Another elder studies the night sky with the excitement of a child. They remind us that curiosity is a fountain of youth. It keeps the mind alive and the spirit engaged. To wake each morning asking, "What will I discover today?" is to stay forever young. The 6th lesson is connection. These elders value relationships more than achievements. They remember names, write letters, share meals. One old fisherman describes evenings when the village gathered to sing by the shore, and how those moments meant more than any catch of the day. People, he says, are the real harvest. 7th is laughter. Even through hardship, laughter has been their lifeline. They recall telling jokes during power outages, giggling in hospital rooms, finding humor in the smallest missteps. A grandmother recalls the day she tripped in the market and spilled oranges everywhere. "I laughed so hard I forgot to be embarrassed," she says. Everyone helped, and soon we were all laughing together. 8th, they speak of nature as teacher. Forests, rivers, and stars have been their silent guides. They urge us to walk barefoot on grass, to watch the moon, to listen to the wind until we remember we belong to the earth. An elder who has watched the same oak tree for 80 years says, "It has seen my childhood, my love, my losses. It is my companion and my mirror." The 9th lesson is service. True happiness, they insist, grows when we give without expecting return. They tell of feeding neighbors during harsh winters, of sharing harvests, of sitting with the lonely. "A life for others," says one elder, "is a life well lived." Finally, for this opening segment, Lesson 10, acceptance. Age has taught them that control is an illusion. Storms come, seasons change, bodies weaken. Peace arrives when we stop resisting what is. A quiet man of 94 sums it up. "I learned to greet each day as it comes, not as I demand it to be." That is freedom. Acceptance, the 10th key, lingers in the air like the hush after a sunset. From it flows the next lesson, hope. The elders explain that acceptance is not surrender. It makes room for hope to grow in real soil. They have seen wars end, droughts break, illnesses heal, and hearts mend. Hope, they say, is the quiet faith that the next dawn will come even when the night feels endless. A woman who lost her husband at 40 tells how she planted a small tree the day after his passing. I needed something that would outlive the sorrow, she recalls. Decades later, the tree is tall enough to shade an entire street. Lesson 12 is creativity. These elders speak of making music on tin cans, sewing quilts from scraps, painting with the colors of memory. Creativity, they insist, is not reserved for the young or the gifted. It is the natural language of the soul. One 90-year-old man still carves wooden birds for the children of his village. Each bird carries a piece of my breath, he smiles. When they fly them through the air, I fly too. Then comes generosity of spirit. Not merely the giving of things, but the sharing of time, attention, and kindness. They tell of neighbors who watched each other's children, strangers who offered rides on rainy days, friends who gave the gift of listening when words were heavy. Generosity, says a grandmother of 8, is the only wealth that multiplies when you spend it. Lesson 14 is resilience. Every elder has faced loss and disappointment, but they learn to bend like willow branches rather than break like dry sticks. They describe rebuilding homes after storms, learning new skills after injuries, and finding reasons to laugh even in hospital wards. Resilience, a retired teacher explains, isn't about never falling. It's about getting up softer each time. Next is presence. Many confess that in youth they were too busy chasing tomorrow to taste today. Now they savor the smell of morning coffee, the sound of rain on the roof, the texture of an old sweater. One elder leans forward and says, "The present is the only time that ever truly belongs to us. Don't trade it for regrets of yesterday or fears of tomorrow." Lesson 16, self-compassion. They learn to speak gently to themselves after mistakes. A man who once demanded perfection from his every effort now chuckles at his own flaws. "I treat myself," he says, "like I would treat a grandchild, firm when needed, but always kind." 17 is community. Beyond individual friendships, they value the web of belonging. They speak of block parties, church suppers, temple dances, and neighborhood cleanups. "We held each other through births and funerals," one woman recalls. That's what keeps a heart alive. The 18th lesson is adaptability. The world changes, technology, politics, weather, even language, and they have learned to move with it. Some learn to text their great-grandchildren, others to plant new crops when the climate shifted. "Adapt," says a farmer with sun-cracked hands, "or the river will leave you behind." Lesson 19 celebrates lifelong learning. They read books, attend lectures, and remain curious. "Every day," says a 93-year-old librarian, "the universe hands you a new page. Why stop reading before the story ends?" The 20th key is humility. These elders have known both triumph and failure. They've been praised and forgotten, loved and left. Humility, they say, is not thinking less of oneself, but understanding that everyone is part of a greater whole. One quiet elder whispers, "The stars don't shine to be admired. They shine because shining is their nature. Be like the stars." From here, the narrative flows naturally toward the 21st lesson, balance. They describe the dance between work and rest, giving and receiving, solitude and company. A grandmother who once juggled career and family confides that balance was never a perfect scale, but a graceful sway. "Some days I leaned too far one way," she smiles, "but I always found the center again." Lesson 22 is courage. Not the loud heroism of headlines, but the quiet bravery of everyday life, starting over after loss, speaking truth with a trembling voice, or simply facing another morning when the heart is heavy. Courage, an elder explains, is fear that has said its prayers. 23 is faith, not tied to any one religion, but a deep trust in the mystery of existence. They speak of moments when reason faltered and yet an unseen strength carried them. A man who once doubted everything now says, "Faith is like the wind. You don't see it, but you feel its push." Lesson 24 brings us to kindness. Though it may sound simple, they call it the greatest power they know. They recount stories of strangers offering shelter, of nurses who held their hands, of small gestures that lit dark times. Kindness, one elder says, is love wearing everyday clothes. The 25th key is gratitude's companion, appreciation of beauty. Whether in a single wildflower, a child's laughter, or the geometry of snowflakes, they find beauty everywhere. Beauty, a painter in her 80s insists, is the language of the soul. Speak it often. The 26th lesson unfolds like dawn. Patience. The elders speak of patience as a strength quietly grown over time, not a passive weight, but a gentle trust in the natural rhythm of life. They recall gardens that took years to bloom, relationships that healed through slow forgiveness, and personal growth that arrived only after long seasons of effort. Patience, says a grandmother with silver hair pulled into a braid, is understanding that the fruit ripens when it's ready, not when we demand it. Lesson 27 is forgiveness. Many share stories of deep wounds, family rifts, betrayals, broken promises. They tell how holding on to anger once felt like strength, but only weighed their hearts down. Forgiveness isn't saying what happened was right, an elder man explains. It's saying that your heart deserves peace more than it deserves revenge. The 28th key is simplicity. Over decades, they learned that happiness lives in uncluttered spaces and clear minds. They traded big houses for cozy homes, extravagant schedules for slow mornings, endless possessions for cherished essentials. One elder laughs, "You can't take it with you. Better to travel light and love heavy." Lesson 29 is laughter. They have known sorrow but discovered that laughter is medicine for the soul. They recount nights of storytelling under starlight, inside jokes that span decades, and giggles shared with great-grandchildren. Laughter, a retired nurse says, is proof that joy can rise even in the hardest hour. The 30th key is self-reliance. Many elders describe the pride of learning to care for themselves, cooking their own meals, fixing small things around the house, managing their health. It isn't about isolation. It's about confidence. When you know you can stand, an elder notes, you can walk toward others with open arms instead of desperate hands. Lesson 31 is wonder. They urge us to keep the childlike awe alive, watching a sunrise, tracing the Milky Way, marveling at the first snowfall. Wonder, says a soft-spoken poet of 87, is the heartbeat of the universe echoing in you. The 32nd lesson is consistency. These elders say small daily actions build the foundation for a joyful life. Writing a few lines each morning, walking the same path at dusk, lighting a candle before bedtime. Habits, a farmer tells us, are the quiet builders of destiny. Lesson 33 is service. They found profound happiness in giving their time and talents to others, mentoring youth, cooking for neighbors, volunteering at shelters. Service, says a former school principal, turns loneliness into connection and ordinary days into sacred ones. The 34th key is perspective. After decades of storms and sunshine, they see troubles as temporary and blessings as constant companions. "This too shall pass," an elder repeats like a gentle mantra. Both the pain and the pleasure are visitors. Greet them, learn from them, and let them go. Lesson 35 is gratitude for the body. Even with aching joints or slower steps, they marvel at how their bodies carried them through decades of laughter, work, and love. "Thank your feet for every mile," says a grandmother who still dances. They've carried your dreams. The 36th lesson is connection to nature. Many elders describe time in gardens, forests, mountains, and oceans as their greatest healer. The earth, an old fisherman smiles, teaches patience, resilience, and renewal better than any book. Lesson 37 is adaptability in relationships. They have loved, lost, and loved again. They've watched friendships fade and new ones bloom. People change, an elder explains. Love them as they are now, not as you remember. The 38th key is courage to start again. Careers ended, partners passed, health shifted, yet they reinvented themselves. One woman became a painter at 70, another started a community garden at 80. It's never too late, they insist, to begin. Lesson 39 is celebration. They celebrate birthdays, small victories, and even ordinary Tuesdays. Mark the moments, a white-haired musician advises. Life is a string of pearls. Don't leave them unstrung. The 40th lesson is inner peace. They describe a quiet place inside where storms cannot reach. It is nurtured through meditation, prayer, or simple silence. Peace, says a grandfather with calm eyes, is the greatest home you'll ever build. Lesson 41 is love of learning from others. They speak of listening more than talking, of seeing wisdom in children, and of learning patience from animals. Every person, an elder insists, is a library. Ask their stories. The 42nd key is letting go of comparison. They once chased success by measuring themselves against neighbors and colleagues, but found freedom in focusing on their own path. The only race, a grandmother says with a grin, is the one between your heart and your purpose. Lesson 43 is embracing change. They tell of moving to new cities, welcoming new technology, accepting new family dynamics. Change is life, an elder gardener notes. Resist it and you wilt. Flow with it and you bloom. The 44th lesson is presence in relationships. They urge younger generations to put away phones, to listen without planning the next reply, to savor eye contact. Attention, an elder says softly, is the purest form of love. Lesson 45 is mindfulness in everyday tasks. They describe washing dishes as a meditation, folding clothes as a prayer. The sacred, says a retired seamstress, lives in the ordinary. The 46th key is trust. Trust in oneself, in others, in life's unfolding. They admit trust can be broken, but insist it can also be rebuilt. Trust, an old sailor whispers, is the bridge between hearts. Lesson 47 is joy in small pleasures. A slice of warm bread, a bird at the window, a grandchild's scribbled note. These bring more happiness than grand achievements. Collect moments, an elder says, not trophies. The 48th lesson is spiritual growth. Whether through religion, philosophy, or quiet reflection, they seek meaning beyond the material. Feed your soul, a wise matriarch advises. It hungers more than your body. Lesson 49 is gratitude for time itself. They know each day is a rare gift. Don't wish it away, an elder warns. One day you will wish for just one more sunrise. And finally, the 50th key, love. Love of family, of friends, of humanity, of life itself. Love that forgives, heals, and connects all other lessons. In the end, a 99-year-old woman says, her voice steady as the tide, love is the only thing that lasts. The 51st lesson emerges quietly like a candle lit in a dark room, the art of listening to your own heart. The elders explain that the world will always be loud with opinions, expectations, and demands, but the softest voice, your own intuition, carries the clearest truth. When I finally trusted that inner whisper, says a 90-year-old retired teacher, every choice felt lighter, every path brighter. Your heart already knows the way. Your mind just needs time to catch up. Lesson 52 is acceptance of imperfection. Wrinkles, scars, and missteps are not flaws to erase, but signatures of a life fully lived. A grandmother traces the faint line on her cheek where a childhood fall left a mark and smiles. Perfection, she says, is a cage. Freedom lives in the crooked, the unexpected, the beautifully unfinished. The 53rd key is generosity of spirit. These elders have learned that kindness is a renewable resource. The more you give, the more flows back. They speak of baking bread for neighbors, sending handwritten letters to strangers in hospitals, sharing wisdom with anyone who asks. Your heart doesn't empty, says an old musician, it expands. Lesson 54 is embracing solitude without fear. Many once dreaded being alone, but over decades they discovered solitude as a companion rather than an enemy. They describe early morning walks, silent cups of tea, evenings spent reading beneath a single lamp. Solitude, an 82-year-old sculptor notes, is where the soul stretches and finds its own shape. The 55th lesson is maintaining curiosity. Whether it's learning a new language at 70 or taking up astronomy at 85, they keep their minds alive. Curiosity, a retired librarian laughs, is the fountain of youth. As long as you wonder, you are never old. Lesson 56 is cherishing friendships across generations. They recount friendships with teenagers who teach them new music, or children who remind them of pure delight. Age is not a barrier to friendship, says a grandmother of 5. It's a bridge. We all meet in the middle. The 57th key is resilience in the face of loss. They have buried parents, partners, siblings, even children. Yet they stand, hearts tender but unbroken. Grief, whispers a widower of 40 years, is proof of love. Let it wash over you, and when it recedes, love remains like a stone in the riverbed. Lesson 58 is gratitude for ordinary miracles. They find wonder in a loaf of bread rising, in a grandchild's laughter, in the steady beat of their own hearts. Every breath, an elder insists, is a miracle we forget to count. The 59th lesson is storytelling. They believe sharing stories keeps memory alive and wisdom circulating. Around campfires, dinner tables, and hospital bedsides, they pass down histories like priceless heirlooms. A life untold, a 93-year-old says, is a library set aflame. Lesson 60 is choosing joy despite circumstances. They have faced wars, economic hardships, personal disappointments. Still, they wake with a decision. Today, I will notice the light. Joy, an elder smiles, is a choice we make again and again. The 61st key is celebrating others' success without envy. They speak of learning to clap for neighbors, to rejoice in someone else's good fortune as though it were their own. Envy, one man says, is a thief of sleep. Gratitude for another's blessing brings your own. Lesson 62 is keeping promises to yourself. Whether it's a vow to walk every morning or to finally paint that landscape, they hold themselves accountable. Self-trust, explains a retired carpenter, is the foundation of confidence. Break your own word and you weaken your spirit. The 63rd lesson is honoring cultural roots while embracing change. They cook recipes from their grandparents yet welcome new flavors. They sing old songs and learn new dances. Heritage, says a wise matriarch, is a garden. Tend it but leave room for new blooms. Lesson 64 is forgiveness of oneself. They share the relief of laying down guilt for past mistakes, of recognizing that youth's errors do not define a lifetime. Forgive yourself, an elder counsels, or you'll carry a burden heavier than any stone. The 65th key is finding sacredness in work, no matter how small. Washing dishes, folding laundry, sweeping a porch, each task becomes an act of care. When done with love, says a gentle gardener, every chore is prayer. Lesson 66 is celebrating milestones privately. They light a candle for personal anniversaries, quitting a habit, surviving a hard year, finishing a book. You are allowed, one elder grins, to applaud yourself. The 67th lesson is embracing lifelong romance, of all kinds. Romance in friendships, in the beauty of nature, in a favorite poem read aloud. Romance, a widow explains, is the art of seeing beauty, not just in a person, but in a moment. Lesson 68 is building a legacy of kindness. They may leave behind modest homes or simple belongings, but their true inheritance is the memory of their compassion. Let them say, an old teacher hopes, she made people feel valued. That is enough. The 69th key is keeping a sense of humor about aging. They laugh about misplaced glasses, about joints that creak like old floorboards. If you can laugh at the passage of time, says a 90-year-old joker, you have already won. Lesson 70 is living with intention. They rise each day with a quiet plan, to notice, to help, to love. Don't drift, an elder warns gently. Steer your own boat, even on a calm sea. The 71st lesson is trusting the next generation. They watch their children and grandchildren navigate a world they can barely imagine. Instead of fear, they offer faith. They will find their way, an elder smiles. As we did. Lesson 72 is cultivating gratitude for every stage of life. Childhood wonder, youthful ambition, middle-age growth, and the reflective calm of later years, each season has a gift. Don't rush to the next, says a grandmother. Every season is its own masterpiece. The 73rd key is honoring silence. They speak of moments when words would only clutter the air. Silence, an elder whispers, lets the heart speak in its own language. Lesson 74 is sharing wisdom without preaching. They tell their stories and then listen, allowing younger hearts to draw their own conclusions. Advice forced, an old storyteller chuckles, is rarely followed. But a story? That travels. And finally, Lesson 75. Love, again and always. Not the first flush of romance, but the steady, enduring love for humanity, for the earth, for existence itself. Love is the circle, a centenarian concludes. It is where we begin and where we end.